So I'm laying on the couch as I often do after runs and such, and I was thinking about doing OT100 race recap. Um, but all I have is my cell phone, and I was just kind of thinking I don't feel like typing up a bunch of stuff on there, and I don't really even know what to say about this race. I guess I could talk about some of the stuff I learned, but um, it was a great time, and it was everybody talks about how the training is greater than the race, in terms of the blood, sweat, and tears put into it, and that's true. And I guess one of the biggest takeaways from this is, as you know, I did this with a good friend of mine, um, Mike Harris, which takes a pretty spectacular friend to take on this volume of training and time together and put up with me. I wouldn't have guessed that there would be another person in the world that could put up with this much of me, aside from my wife, and not want to kill me at some or many points during the process. But Mike, conservative estimate, we probably ran 1,500 miles together just this year, and probably did an equivalent amount last year, getting prepared for various races. But specifically for this race, we ran. I'm gonna estimate 1,500 miles, and then the race itself took us 29 and a half ish hours to complete. And we weren't together the entire time. We were separated by 100 or 200 yards for a lot of the time. Um, as much time as we spend together, it's kind of funny that we don't really run at the same pace a lot of the time. I am a fast walker, and Mike, he tends to run more than me, and he'll trot along at a pace that's right in between what I can comfortably run and what I can fast walk. So consequently, we don't run together very much. I mean, we do, but we don't. Um, if I put him out front, usually he'll pull ahead, and then because I'll walk, he'll pull ahead, and then I'll trot and catch up to him. And if I'm out in front, it's an ongoing joke that I just take off, um, and then I'll stop and wait, and he'll catch up. I'm not saying he's a slower runner. It's just the nature of how we run together is just kind of funny, because as much time as we spend together, we're very different runners. And obviously we get along really well, and so it was a good time. Crew, man, we didn't know a damn thing coming into this thing. We weren't even planning to have a crew. We saw a post by Andrea on the Smut group offering to pace or crew somebody, and I was like, oh, hell yeah, we need to do that. So I jumped in and said, yeah, that'd be great, and she had already committed to someone else. So Karen stepped forward and said, I'll crew you, and Becky will help out, and we'll talk to Steve, and Steve will help out too. And I was like, sweet, this is great, because everyone in the group is awesome. But had a really good connection with Steve in the past, and spent a lot of time with Becky and Karen out on the trails. So was very excited to have their wisdom and their support going through the run. So we had a couple crew meetings before, and that was good. And then during the race, they were just a godsend. Everyone says how valuable a crew is, and I had no reason not to believe it, but now I have a much deeper respect for how important crew and support is for a race. So, things I learned. I drink way too much while I'm running. Once again, I mean, Lion's Roar, and this is just kind of a continuation of that problem. I guess it's a good problem to have. I'd rather drink too much than not enough. But I carried 3 bottles with me at all times. I would generally drink 2 bottles between every aid station. So I was also peeing frequently, more frequently than I lost a certain amount of time because I had to stop and pee so much, which is okay. Mike and I said going into this, we just want to finish. Okay, man, I'm bouncing all over the place, but whatever. I had goals going into this thing. Goal number 1 was to finish in under 32 hours so I wouldn't get cut off. Goal number 2 is to finish happy and not feeling completely wrung out like I did at Lions Roar. I didn't, as much as I enjoyed hanging out in the sick bay with Abby at Lions Roar, and it is funny as those photos are and as memorable as it is, I didn't want to repeat that experience. Another thing I wanted to do was to be able to actually run, or at least to the extent that a person can run after 100 miles. I wanted to run across the finish line. I'm not sure I had any other goals beyond that. And I thought those were totally reasonable goals. I'm never 100% certain of anything because there's so much that can go wrong. Anybody watching this, you know, it's in a race of this distance, there's so many things outside of your control that you hope you can deal with, but maybe you can, maybe you can't. But I was reasonably confident that I was going to finish. I was reasonably confident that I'd be happy when I finished, because why sign up for something like this if you're not going to be happy when you finish? I mean, I felt like crap after Lions Roar, but I was still thrilled when I finished because it was great. Being able to run across the finish line, that wasn't a given. I wasn't sure that I was going to be able to do that. So, there's that. Could we have done this race faster? Absolutely. We didn't have pacers. Steve was pushing us out of aid stations. He was pushing me out of aid stations, and ipso facto, I drug Mike out of aid stations because there's always that tendency to just want to sit there and enjoy seeing somebody because you haven't seen anybody for 6 hours or whatever. We definitely could have moved faster. We definitely could have turned ourselves inside out more than we did. It would have been at the cost of being able to look as good as we did at the finish line. Not that we looked great, but I mean, if we would have pushed harder, obviously there would have been a lot less left. But I'm confident I could have finished this race. I'm going to say significantly faster than I did, but that wasn't the point. The first ultra I ever did, I had a time goal, and I came close to getting it, and it was great, but everything I've done since then, I didn't put any time goals on myself. I just wanted to enjoy the experience, and that has worked well for me. I used to be a cyclist, and I got pretty good at it, and the last 2 years that I was a competitive cyclist, I got extremely serious about it, and long story short, I burned myself out. I had goals, I reached those goals, but ultimately, I haven't touched my bike in a very long time. I got an injury at Lions Roar, and my doctor said, you got to cross train, and so ride the bike, and so I did, and I hated it. So I guess that's kind of one of the reasons why I don't put goals on myself with ultras, because I don't want to risk burnout. I love this. I love the way I do it. I love the community that I'm a part of. It awesome gets thrown around a lot, but it is. This community is godlike. It is so important to me, and it renews my enthusiasm for life. That sounds so corny to say, but it's absolutely true. And so I'm going to continue doing what works, because I want to stay a part of this as long as I can. And burning myself out, chasing some To me, silly goal. And I say silly because I don't have the pedigree. I don't have the natural gifts and talents to win these things. And damn sure no one is ever going to pay me to do this. So why turn it into a job? If you're not going to win, what's the difference between 10th place and 30th place? I mean, really, at least maybe that's a big deal to some people. To me, it is not worth the risk of getting burned out and spoiling what I love to do. So I want to hang on to that. Rambling on here, sorry. But hey, you don't have to read, you can just listen to it. So I guess that makes this a neat race report, hopefully. Okay, so I carried too much water, carried a lot of extra weight that I didn't need to. I definitely over prepared for this race in terms of hydration and calories. I brought, Lord, 15,000 calories worth of nutrition to this race, in addition to whatever I could have eaten at aid stations. I forget what I estimated my intake to be. It was primarily liquid mix and gels. It worked for me, so I did it. But it was north of 6,000 calories that I carried with me and ate, or consumed rather. If you drink it, I guess you don't eat it. But then I ate a decent amount of food at aid stations. There was some talk that I barfed at Berryman aid station. I didn't actually barf. I was eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and if my mouth is dry and I chew something for too long and it stays in my mouth too long, I start to gag, and that's what happened. So I had to spit out the bite that I was taking, and then I dry heaved for a couple minutes, and my mouth started watering, and so there was a lot of liquid coming out of my mouth, but it was all saliva. Honestly, barfing probably would have felt a whole lot better than dry heaving, but I didn't lose any calories there, so I guess, yay, that's a good thing. And I got done with that, and I was really fine. We went back out on the trail, and all was good. Other lessons learned: don't bother looking at the weather reports. Forecast was 32 degrees Saturday night, with a wind chill that would put it down to a feels like 30 degrees. It felt a lot colder than that, and I knew it would. And the reason is because they told me that down in the hollows it was down like 20 degrees, and the wind chill was a lot more significant than that. So we were experiencing some extreme conditions for us. I think it got up to like 60 degrees during the day, so that's a pretty radical temperature swing that we dealt with. The time change, wow, that sounds like something that Gary Cantrell Laz would do for one of his races, like the Barkley or something. Just one more thing to really jack with your head. All the leaves that fell, and we were running through at some points 3 or 4 inches of leaves covering baby heads and rocks and other trip hazards. That was a challenge, yeah. The trail, beautiful trail, really well marked. I never worried about getting lost, but those markers are awesome at night, and they did a great job. I'm talking about the Ozark Trail Association, because they're the ones that marked it. The race directors, they put up a handful of markers here and there, and I'm not taking a dig at them. The trail is just so well marked, they don't have to do much marking. It's just a phenomenal trail, except for the Berryman Loop. The Berryman section of the trail's fine, but the markings suck. There was long times where we didn't have markers, but we had pre-run that portion of the course going the opposite direction, but we had pre-run that section, so we had a little bit of familiarity. It was dark when we ran it this time, so that was tougher, but we really didn't have any problems. There was one time where I took a wrong turn because the trail kind of at a low angle, you know, kind of like this with a farm road, not a farm road, but a fire road. And I think Joe told me that he did this, and I was like, oh, that's funny. And damned if I didn't do it myself. I followed the road and missed the trail, and Mike was a couple hundred yards back, like I said we usually do, and he's like, hey, actually there was another person that was similar pace to us at that point, and she's like, hey, you missed a turn, and I'm like, thanks, that's great to know. And I had only gone, like I said, a couple hundred yards past, so no big deal. There was one other portion where there was a lot of trees that fell down, and where you had to climb over these trees or go around the trees. There was one portion coming into Sutton Bluff where the switchbacks coming down the bluff into Sutton Bluff campground, a tree had fallen across the switchback. So I climbed over the tree, and as soon as I got over the tree, I was off trail. And I'm staring at a big drop off the cliff, and I'm looking, it would have been to my left, to try to find the trail. And I just about headed into the woods to go searching for the trail. And a group of 2 runners came up behind us and shared their discovery that, or their supposition that, I think this tree fell over the switchback. So I climbed back over the tree, and sure enough, they were right. And that would not have been disastrous because I knew how to get to Sutton Bluff, because that is another section of the trail that I had pre-run. Mike and I both had pre-run. So I wouldn't have got lost, but I could have wasted more time jacking around looking for the trail there. And so I guess I got lucky is what I'm saying. That was cool. What else? The bus broke down, and so we were 15 minutes late starting the race. That was a little bit of a mind warp. We had to reload onto a second bus, and of course it was flipping cold. So any chances of getting rest on the bus ride were gone. The bus didn't stop on the way to the race start, so anybody that needed to pee or poop before the race, I'm sure they were getting nervous. I could not go. I got up at midnight. I wanted to get up at 2:30 so I could make it to the bus by 3. Got up at midnight and couldn't sleep, typical. Could not poop, so I was a little concerned because I knew I was going to start this race and have to go in the woods, which I am no stranger to doing that, but I didn't really want to at the beginning of the race because there would have been a lot of people around. 88 people start this race, you're bunched up. Someone's going to see you squatting and blowing mud on the trail, and I really, I got no shame, I got no dignity, so I would have done it, but I was hoping it didn't come to that, and it did, so whatever. It's all part of the ultra life, I guess, right? So that was kind of a mind thing also. And then, the last 5 or 6 miles, Mike indicated that he was ready for it to be done. And once again, this is going to sound weird, but I didn't want it to be over. I absolutely love the way these races, help me to mentally escape from, I've got a wonderful life, but it is so nice to just absolutely forget about everything and focus on the moment for 29 and a half hours, but to just not be thinking about anything in the outside world. And so it's a little bit bittersweet finishing these things because I don't want it to be over. But it's a pretty good high when it is over because the sense of accomplishment and everything else. So that was cool. Gads, I'm coming up on 20 minutes here. I don't know what else to share. I'll probably think of some other stuff, but let's just leave it at that for now. If you've made it this far, thanks. And to everybody that helped out and that was there, I got so much love for you. And I probably told you that already, but I'll tell you again because these things are so much fun with the community and with the friends. Sean, Andrea, Steve, the other Steve, Andy, Sam, Alan, all you guys, and I know I'm missing some, but and then of course my co-captains of the crew, Becky and Karen. Just huge shout out to all you guys. Thank you so much, and I look forward to getting back out on the trails and running with you again soon. I don't seem to have any injuries. I'm feeling great. I'm moving around. I'm recording this Tuesday morning, so it's a couple days after the race, and I'm not gonna say I could run, but I've been doing a lot of walking, and I'm feeling great. So I'm gonna be back out there soon. I hope to enjoy some trails with you soon, and that's a wrap. Thanks, guys. Love you. See you soon. Bye-bye.